What does this climate deal mean for a common person, and what is it all about?
See, the objective of the climate change negotiations was very simple. The problem is greenhouse gas emissions. Greenhouse gas emissions lead to global warming, which in turn causes climate change, which gets manifested in the kind of incidents that we have seen in Chennai recently, and we have also seen in Uttarakhand in 2013. We have seen in Kashmir last year. So the solution was very simple. If greenhouse gas emissions are the problem, you cut down emissions of greenhouse gases. But then greenhouse gases come from fossil fuels, which are behind the production of all sorts of energy today. And therefore, cutting down greenhouse gas emissions means economy-wide impacts everywhere. It affects the way we produce and consume energy. It affects the way we travel. To a very large extent, it will impact on the way we are leading our lives. So the whole negotiation about climate change, an agreement on climate change, it became big only because of the kind of all-encompassing impact that it was likely to have across different sectors of economy.
Yeah, in Indian context, what does this deal mean? I mean, how India will make headway after this?
See, India had come to this negotiation with one big concern. India is a developing country. India needs a lot of energy. Its energy requirements are growing. It needs to, triple or even increase its energy by 4 times over the next 15-20 years. And that energy is going to come mainly from fossil fuels. Even as we increase the content of renewable energy in our energy mix, it's going to come mainly from fossil fuels. So, and as we burn more fossil fuels, India's emissions is going to rise. So India's concern was that even as it tries along with the rest of the world to fight climate change and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, India wanted space for its own emissions to grow because of its development needs. So India's primary focus was that there should not be any restriction, any limit on its own growth path. That was India's concern, and in a very large way this agreement takes care of those concerns. It will be very it has been satisfactorily addressed, I can say.
And since Copenhagen in 2009, we have been hearing about differentiation and equity. Has it also been addressed, and how does India stand in this context?
See, this agreement is a compromise document. There are 196 countries in the fray. There is something for each of these countries in the agreement. But from India's angle and from the angle of the other developing countries as well, we have to look at it in basically at 2 points: how the differentiation angle has been addressed and how the finance mechanism has been addressed. And on both these counts, India and the developing countries are reasonably well placed. The differentiation has been maintained in some way in most of the elements of the agreement, even though we don't see any reference to the historical emission aspect that the developing countries have been talking about throughout the negotiations over the last few years. It's about the developed countries are blamed for the current global warming, which is the result of emissions that have happened over the last 150 years. And during that time, it is only the developed countries which were emitting because they were the industrialized society. So the blame is put on the developed countries, and rightly so. And
they
therefore,
shoulder more responsibility too.
Yes. So the differentiation angle comes from that, because developed countries have polluted, they must be the ones to clean up. So developing countries have been over the years been asking for a differentiation to be there in the agreement. This agreement takes care of that differentiation, though not in the same way that the developing countries have been asking over the years, in the form of annex and non-annex sort of division that was there in the 1992 original UNFCCC document, UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, which is the original agreement on climate change. So it is not in the same aspect. The annex and non-annex sort of division has gone. The annex countries were supposed to be the countries who are rich. There was a list of 30 countries which were put in annexure, and they were the rich and industrialized countries which had to take more responsibility, and non-annex countries was the rest of the world which did not have those kind of responsibility. So that division has gone, but an element of differentiation is there, which has satisfied most of the developing countries. So the developed countries will have to undertake emission cuts. The developed countries will have to put finance on the table. The developed countries will have to give money to the developing countries for adaptation as well. The developed countries will have to help in capacity building. The developed countries will have to part with technology. So all these elements are there, and developing countries also have had to compromise in certain aspects, especially on finance. They have had to give in on some of the demands. So the big thing about this agreement is that countries have been able to come with some sort of compromise, which had been eluding the countries for all these years. So overall, it's a good framework to start with. The thing is, from now on, once the deal is done, the countries will have to start acting on the action plans that they have produced, and a lot of action will happen outside of this agreement. This agreement is only the beginning, it's not the end. The action will come from the businesses, the action will come from sub-regional and the city level governments. So we will see in future a lot of action coming from climate actions happening across the board in different countries. This agreement will facilitate a lot of that.